So the Chicago Bulls stand pat at the NBA trade deadline, making one big swing in regards to the Zach LaVine trade, a re-signing of Lonzo Ball, and no moves for Nikola Vucevic. We also got details on what the future of Vooch and Dosunmu could be for the Chicago Bulls as soon as this offseason. We're going to talk about it all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, hosted by Haize, your number one spot for all things Chicago Bulls.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Sarah Haize. More importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's get into it for today. So the Bulls do not make any additional moves at the NBA trade deadline, which means that the Bulls' one and major move that they made was trading Zach LaVine in a three-team trade and getting Kevin Huerter, Zach Collins, Trey Jones, and their own first-round pick back. And much like I thought, it was much aligned with what I thought that AK would say in regards to this. Now, we did get some details out on what the Bulls do plan on doing with Nikola Vucevic, and so we'll talk a little bit about that. We also got some word on what could happen with Dosunmu and his future as well with the team. But it stands right now, right? The Chicago Bulls were they were on the phone with a lot of people about potentially trading Nikola Vucevic. It seems like the reason they did not pull the trigger on that is that they laid out a lot of groundwork for a move this offseason for Nikola Vucevic. They feel like they've laid out a lot of groundwork to make a move on Vooch this offseason. And they did say that, it's plenty. This from Casey Johnson. Bulls have had a lot of talk surrounding Nikola Vucevic. There will be plenty of groundwork for an offseason move. So with that said, that means that the Bulls are punting off down to the offseason, which if you've been watching me for a while, I kind of said that could be the outcome when it comes to Nikola Vucevic. He's an expiring contract. Teams usually, especially with teams that are kind of holding on to their first-round picks now, if a team's pick ends up lower than what they were expected or they're not as enamored with some of the prospects lower in the draft, they can make a trade for Nikola Vucevic. I know that Bulls fans are going to be upset that there was no move made for Vooch, right? I understand that. But I think this, right? That I don't think that any of the value of Vooch gets hurt in the offseason, meaning that any deals that were there for Nikola Vucevic, I think you're still going to find most of those deals in the offseason. That's just my personal opinion, right? He's still going to be the 20-10 guy he's been. He's still going to be a weak defender that he's been. He's still going to be over the age of 30. He's still going to have a $20 million contract. It's expiring next year. And I think that teams may be better willing to take a swing on it when that time comes, right? So I'm not too surprised by that. I know that it's going to upset Bulls fans. And as I said before, I get it that everybody wants the Bulls to just be active, right? And just make moves, right? And it comes down to calculations. And AK typically makes weird evaluations of things. And while Nikola Vucevic doesn't fit the future of this team, I still think and hold out the thing that I don't think Vooch is on this roster by opening day next year. That's just the feeling that I got by the way that KC and everybody's talked around it. I just think there's a high probability and chance that Nikola Vucevic is off this roster by the start of next season. So we'll see what happens with that, right? This is still a very guard-heavy lineup, and that's going to be the way that it's going to be. It's always been that way for the Chicago Bulls, and we'll just figure it out from that standpoint in that point in time. Would you have traded Vooch to Golden State for 2 seconds in this draft for a grand total of 4 picks in the 2025 draft? Yeah, I would have. Depending on what you get back, if it was those expiring contracts, I probably would have. As long as we get Igor Dimon this upcoming draft, we will be promised. Listen, I love Igor, but that's another guard. So that means that the Bulls have to make some trades when it comes down to that. Bulls having too many guards is overstated, don't you think? Dalen and Huerter are 6'7". THT is built like a big back linebacker. He's not guarding twos. Problem is really rotations, too many guards. Well, here's the thing that I'll say with that, right? Like Kevin, it's not just about height. Like technically Josh Giddey's 6'9", but we all know he cannot play any other guard, but any other position than point guard. His efficiency, everything drops the moment you try to put him anywhere else but point guard, right? So it's not just about height. But I will say this, like we do have Like Dalen Terry is a guy that can play small forward, right? Julian Phillips, a guy that can play small forward and power forward, right? So yeah, Billy does lean more towards his guards, but here's what I'll say: it's not just about having forwards on the roster; it's about having good forwards on the roster. Because right now, Lonzo is more impactful at playing at the three than getting Dalen Terry to play at the three. That just is what it's been so far, right? So some of that is in regards to as well in regards to just this who's bringing it and who's not. But it is what it is when it comes down to it. Please don't justify. Please don't fail to understand the difference between justifying and reasoning, right? I'm not justifying anything. There's nothing to justify. It wasn't my decision, but there is some reasoning in that, right? Like, could you have pulled the trade on Nikola Vucevic? Yeah. Should they have probably pulled trades on Nikola Vucevic? Yeah. But keep in mind, they would have been getting more guards back, at least one more guard back in the proposed trade for Nikola Vucevic. So it is what it is. Like, is one more trade going to change your standing that much? No, it's not. The Bulls are still a team that's going to suck. And we're no longer a team that's trying to skate by with a certain record so that we can keep their pick because they don't have to worry about that anymore. It's not as big of an issue. That's nice, but we'd rather see him off the team now. I'm not trying to watch this dude for the rest of the. Well, guess what? You got to. So there you go. I mean, and I hate to be not trying to be a dick about it, but it's just the reality of it. All right, now you're going to watch him for the rest of the season. That just is what it is. Would you make a move for LaMelo in the offseason? No. Here's what I'm not even for the right price. Here's the thing. Making a move for LaMelo puts you right back where you were when you had Zach LaVine. You're going to be contending, hovering around the play-in. You're not going to be getting the best picks. No. LaMelo Ball is the type of move that you would make if you feel like you're ready to compete again and you're one player away, a scorer away. The Bulls aren't that. So no, I'm not in for making a play on LaMelo right now. We should have made more moves. Okay, for what? I'm just like, okay, what would have happened then? The Bulls are still going to suck the rest of the season. YouTube trash on the notification. YouTube's been trash on the notifications. It's been trash on the notifications. But with this said as well, right, is that it came out in regards to this as well, that the Bulls got calls on Dosunmu, and that there's the feeling that was gotten from the Bulls front office is that the Bulls actually don't plan on moving Dosunmu, which I know is going to be music to a lot of Bulls fans' ears, saying that they feel like if anybody's extended, not to say that other players won't be, but that Dosunmu probably has the best chance of being extended. So that's really good for the future of the Chicago Bulls, especially for my Dosunmu fans. Seems like is going to be sticking around for the Bulls for a long time. This just makes sense. I've said it before. Dosunmu is the one that can fit on no matter which way you go with your roster. Dosunmu is a fit for it. This is what it is. Dosunmu, if you have more scoring, Dosunmu is a fit. If you go more defense, Dosunmu is a fit, right? If you go more up-tempo team, Dosunmu is a fit. If you go more half-court team, oriented team that wants to slow down things, Dosunmu is a fit. So hearing that right now that multiple teams got the impression that the Bulls want to keep Dosunmu, I think that that's a really good sign of the way that also Bulls fans view Dosunmu, which is really good when it comes down to that. So I think that that's a big thing when it's all said and done. So the future of Dosunmu seems to be here with the Chicago Bulls, which is not a bad thing. I don't think anybody's going to say that's a really good thing because Dosunmu is that type of player, right? Yep, wings are going to run the league. Oh yeah, it's versatile wings, right? That can play multiple positions. That's really the thing that's going to happen. Shame on us for thinking the front office could do something right. Like, what did y'all think? Like, here's the thing. We complained for the last 3 years that the Bulls do nothing at the trade deadline. The Bulls clearly make a move that has chosen their direction, and now you're complaining because they didn't do more moves? Like, I get saying, hey, I would have liked to see them do more things, but the one thing, and this is where the expectations come in, the one thing coming into the season is that we wanted the Bulls to choose a direction. With trading Zach LaVine and no longer having any high contracts on this team, getting control over all their first-round picks now for until they trade another one, they have control of every first-round pick that they have. They've chosen that direction. So it's like, yeah, okay, they didn't trade everybody. They were never going to trade every veteran on this team in one offseason. It was never going to happen. You know what's crazy is that we were to make a trade like we did with Zach LaVine, we would have gotten the same reaction from Chicago Bulls fans that we are getting right now. I mean, I guess so, right? Io should never be moved. I don't care about any trade package. I'm being selfish. That is hilarious. Who is even going to play? I think Jones has a chance to be really good, but don't want to see Kobe or Io or Lonzo lose time. Well, I don't think they're going to lose time. Keep in mind, Lonzo's still not playing back-to-backs. There's still going to be some scheduled rest days there, right? So, Trey is funny because as well that came out with this is that Trey Jones poised to survive the trade deadline and could stick beyond his expiring contract. I don't know how that's going to work, but we'll see. As a guy from Chicago and still live here, I'm glad we're going to extend Io. I mean, listen, plans could change. Until it actually happened, plans could change. And we'll see. I mean, but right now it seems like their intention is definitely on keeping Io Dosunmu. Bulls Daily in the building says, no excuses for P. Will. He need to become that star and show us he's worth the $90 million contract. Well, $90 million contract isn't star level contract anymore. And I think at this point, the chance of P. Will becoming a star are gone, at least for me. Now, I do think that P. Will can be a very productive player in this league, but him being a star, I don't know about that anymore, brother. Rory, where do these new players fit in? Do you see them getting playing time? Honestly, maybe, right? Like Kevin Huerter as a shooter, maybe. But then again, we got a heavy guard rotation. Like the fact that we didn't clear, let me pull up the depth chart real quick. I just want to pull it up so I have a visual of it. And we could take a look at the actual roster, and then we can make, because I can throw up stuff off the top of my head, but I just want to take a look at what it's looking like, and then let's see what it is. What the fuck just happened there? All right, let's see. Let's just take a look at the Bulls roster real quick, and I just want to see who can the new players get ahead of in the depth chart, right? So Josh Giddey, Lonzo Ball, Kobe White, Io Dosunmu, their roles aren't changing any, right? That's 4 guards right there. So that leaves Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter trying to get in as the 5th and 6th guard on the team. Kevin Huerter, maybe. Trey Jones, I don't know. Jalen Smith's not losing his role, so Zach Collins isn't going to get a lot of minutes. Modest Bucilis, P. Will, I don't see them losing their roles, right? So it really puts Trey Jones and Kevin Huerter, really, do they pass up Dalen Terry on the depth chart? That's the biggest question here. Do Kevin Huerter or Trey Jones pass up Dalen Terry on the depth chart? If the answer to that is no, then it's going to be very hard for them to get consistent minutes. Very hard to get consistent minutes. So, it is what it is when it comes down to that. Moves for what? For picks, at least. So many teams were trading with a load of picks involved. I just feel like we could have gotten more urgency with this. We need a black front office and coach. That's not going to do shit. But I mean, go look at the specific deals that those were moved in, though. Like, cool, yeah, the Bulls get a couple of seconds back. I would have loved it. I think if you would have made a move with Golden State and gotten those 2 second-round picks in 2025, all right, you're cooking, right? But just because teams made deals with other teams doesn't necessarily mean they were in on our pieces, right? Now, teams that made moves for centers, let's just go over the centers, right? Nurkic went in a trade, but the Suns had to include a first-round pick to move him. That doesn't really bode well for the center market. Mark Williams got traded, but he was a young defensive center that the Lakers needed. They didn't want another offensive center. So that move doesn't really compare to the Chicago Bulls, right? I think you got to look at that aspect of it. Like, we can just look at deals that were made, but you also got to look at what deals were made for what positions. And for Vucevic's position group specifically, for Vucevic's position group, there weren't a lot of big name centers that were moved. Like I said, Nurkic they had to include a first round pick to come off of Jokic. And I know Bulls fans would have been pissed about that. If the Bulls would have had to include a first round pick to get off of Nikola Vucevic's contract and get some seconds back, y'all all would have flipped out about it. Everybody would, and rightfully so. I'm not saying you're wrong for that. Rightfully so. Everybody would have flipped out about it. Marvin Bagley was included in the deal for Marcus Smart. Not the caliber of player that Vooch is. No picks went in that one. James Wiseman was gone to the Toronto Raptors in a cost-saving move for cash. They're definitely not moving Nikola Vucevic in that type of deal. Right? So let's look at the centers that were moved, bro. Cody Zeller for a 2028 second-round pick to the Rockets. They're going to cut him and waive him. They had money to absorb that. They helped the Atlanta Hawks get underneath the tax. That's not a Vooch move right there. Centers didn't really go for a lot, y'all. And I think that's the part that the Bulls are looking at as well, right? You got to look at the market for your position. Yes, I would have loved to see Nikola Vucevic moved. Yes, I do think that the Golden State Warriors, with some coercing, could have probably gotten it done. But I think overall, when you look at the moves that were made for centers, there just weren't a lot of them made. There just weren't a lot of them made. And the ones that were made would have been detrimental to the Chicago Bulls. It would have hurt it. You said it best, Haize. Everything wasn't going to be solved at the trade deadline. Bulls get a center for this, it's average. They moved LaVine and didn't have to give up assets. Vuce will be gone eventually. Yeah, I do think they're going to definitely move him. I definitely think they're going to still move him, right? What picks was offered for Kobe? We don't know. We don't know the offer for Iowa. It seems like any calls for Io were turned down. So it doesn't seem like an official offer was made for Io, and it doesn't seem like an official offer was made for Kobe either, rather than the Bulls listen to what teams would be willing to move. That's the feeling that it seems like, at least. Dalen Terry bench bound. That's definitely like you can see them playing maybe Kevin Huerter over Dalen Terry, maybe something like that, right? So we're saying. If you're saying they might keep Jones beyond the season, do you think they would try to move Kobe in the offseason? No, because I don't think Trey Jones is a replacement for Kobe. I don't think that that's what this is. I think that maybe they look to move on from Javon Carter. I think Trey Jones is a better bench guard coming off the bench for that. But again, that could be changed. That could be changed. Asking price was too high. If we were trying to start this rebuild we started the rebuild. People got to stop saying if we're trying to start the rebuild. Hello, we started the rebuild. The rebuild has started. You're not talking about starting a rebuild. You're talking about completing a rebuild. That doesn't always happen all at once. We started the rebuild. That's it. They started the rebuild. The rebuild started. Let's get off of it. The rebuild started. It's not about starting a rebuild. The rebuild has been started. Period. It's been started. If Vooch was slightly better defender, this would be a different conversation. But it shouldn't be, because the Bulls aren't trying to win right now. The conversations that people are having around Nikola Vucevic are conversations as if the Bulls are trying to win. Now, for not everybody, because the ones that are saying Vooch should have been traded for picks, well, if you look at the way the trade market is, you had to give up picks to trade a center. So my question is, who are we going to build around? The answer to that is they're not on the roster yet. They're probably not on the roster yet who we're going to build around. It's probably not on the roster. Vooch has a great contract that isn't hard to move off from. It's a matter of what we get in return. Yeah, I mean, if you're just willing to take anything back, you can move off almost any salary. But we're past the point. The Bulls aren't at the point where they're just trying to do whatever just to get somebody off books, right? They're trying to get something back, right? We've been rebuilding for years now. We just ain't we haven't been rebuilding for years. That's a copium comment. We've been trying to compete, which was just false. Oh, well, that wasn't successful. What up, Haize? Sorry if you already answered this, but do you think that we keep the 3 new guys long-term now that they passed the trade deadline? No. What is it? Trey Jones is already a free agent at the end of this year. Kevin Huerter is an expiring contract next year, as is Zach Collins. No, I don't think that they're here long-term for the Chicago Bulls. I just don't think that they are. You need to respect the value of your current assets and can't just trade for trade's sake. People need to want what you have to offer. Exactly. That's exactly 100% there. 100%. Spurs fan here. Haize just subscribe. Keep up the good work. I like this young core y'all have. It's going to come together, and the Bulls are going to be dangerous in a few years. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. I mean, we got to see. We got to get draft picks right over time for sure, but, we'll see what happens. Haize, if you're starting a rebuild, you are moving Ior, Kobe, and Vooch. No, that's not a rebuild. That's a total tear down. That's not. You don't have to completely tear everything down to rebuild. That's just false. That's just false. That's what fans think. Go look at maybe over time, but again, y'all are talking about doing it all at once. If the Bulls, for example, draft Igor, right? Then maybe they look to move on from Kobe. But the way that y'all try to view this, well, if you're going through a rebuild, that means that you trade everybody. That's not how it works. It very rarely works like that. Look at the Nets. They're definitely going through a rebuild. They haven't traded everybody. The Portland Trailblazers are going through a rebuild. They haven't traded everybody yet. They're the team that most people thought were going to be very active at this trade deadline. So this thought process that you have to trade everybody for it to be a rebuild is just false. It's just not true. It's just not true. So I get what everybody's saying on it, and I get that everybody wanted to see a complete and utter rip out, but that's just not factually how it's always done. So you're the only Bulls page looking at things from a reasonable aspect, and I appreciate that. So many crashing out about so many different irrelevant things. It's annoying and casual as hell. The thing that I've come to learn about doing this job is 90% of sports fans are casual. And that's fine. I don't even mean that as a slight, right? Most fans don't have a deep understanding of the cap. Most fans are just looking at, did you move this guy or didn't you? Well, XYZ player got moved. Why didn't you move your player? And it's like, well, that player made $10 million less, had more time on their contract, and they were healthier. Like, so that's just the nature of sports. That's literally just the nature of sports. We need to build around Lonzo. How high are you? How much fent was in the weed that you're smoking? What's up, son? Did you let your sister in? Go unlock the door for Lala. You just leave your sister outside?
No, she got inside.
Oh, are you sure she's in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, come back. What's up? Can you ride the scooter? Didn't you stay home from school today because you weren't feeling good? Now you want to go ride the scooter?
Why can't I?
It's 38 degrees outside.
You mean it's 42?
Is it 42?
Yes.
Is it still ice on the ground?
Let me check.
All right. This was like trade years ago when we got Anthony Morrow campaign and Jeffrey Laverne from the Thunder for Taj Gibson. Was that the return that we got back from Taj Gibson? That was definitely disappointing. I remember being pissed when we traded Taj. 3 years and still not one move for a rim protector. Haize, crazy, bro. I mean, we got some rim protection in Jalen Smith, right? We are not rebuilding. We are keeping. No, if we were keeping afloat, we would be contending for the 8 seed or something like that. We are not keeping afloat. What are you talking about? What's wrong with building around Zoe? What's right with building? First of all, you can't even confirm that Zoe's going to be able to stand up the next 2 years. You can't build around somebody on a rebuilt knee. What are you talking about? What's up? Okay. First of all, you got to come say hi to the people because you interrupted they stream because they appreciate. Secondly, hat, coat, helmet.
How many laps?
6. Love you. Pops duty mid-season. Mid-station, LOL, salute to the real one, Haize. Hey, y'all already know. Like, I used to be big on, like, let me not let my son come up on the stream. That's not professional. That's not. Listen, I'm a father first. So, it is what it is when it comes down to it. I am a father before everything else. If y'all don't want to see my kids, then y'all probably should go pick a different stream. My kids are going to pop up on the stream. It just is what it is. I'm not that parent that's like, I'm streaming. How dare you come in my streaming room? No, like, Come hang out. I just make sure that he's always going to be polite and tell you guys hi when he comes interrupt. Just hopping in here while at work. What do you think of the overall trade deadline? I saw SAG grade was a D on acquiring Zach. Do you believe so? Also, which trade shocked you besides Zach and Luka? Zach really didn't shock me. The Luka shocked me. I would think that the Mark Williams trade definitely shocked me. I didn't expect for the Lakers to give up Dalton Connect and a first-round pick for Mark Williams of all people. But overall, I mean, it was a cool trade deadline. Exciting trade deadline. Haize is definitely the most balanced Bulls creator. Even when we disagree, this is the spot. If you're a Bulls fan, subscribe here for sure. And I mean, listen, agreeing and understanding are two different things, right? I understand 90% of what you guys say. There's some people like TBO, he be tripping. I never understand what he says. But I always understand what your guys' opinions, even if I don't agree, I usually understand what they're rooted in, right? And I get the people that are like, hey, I just want this to be done. Let's clear all this out. Let's start completely over. I understand that. Make no mistake about it. I understand what the thinking is rooted in that. I'm just saying that that's not always realistically how a team's going to go about it. That's just my personal opinion. I don't care what nobody say. You can't just give away 20-10 guy for nothing, and the Bulls can't draft. I feel where you're coming from with that. Bulls sucks. Life sucks. Hey, listen. I hope your life doesn't suck, man. No, nobody's life should suck if they're just because their team sucks. Like, don't let your team be your identity, right? And as much you would think, as much as I have Bulls gear, as much as I do work for the Bulls and all that, the Bulls aren't my identity. When I get pissed off by my team, make no mistake about it. But when I'm out of it, I got life. Y'all see it. I got kids. I got a kid in college. I got a lot of stuff going on. I have a great career. Listen, if the Bulls suck, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. What's the word, Haize? Like I told Steve-O, AK too busy twiddling his thumbs. Listen, I feel it, man. I feel it. We never got a chance to see how good Vooch, DeMar, Zach, and Ball would have been because of injuries. I hate that for us. What the what could have been, right? The what could have been. So where do the Bulls go from here, Haize? I mean, they're going to suck. They're going to suck. They're going to have high draft picks for at least the next 2, maybe even 3 years. And we're going to have to go through the pain. Like, this is going to be a tough transition for everybody because the Bulls are going to be really, really, really bad. Suns may be the biggest losers of the deadline. All they accomplished was pissing off their players. Listen, I feel that. Definitely feel that. Screw this front office, complete failure. All right. I mean, hey, listen, if that's how you feel, Telvin, that's how you feel, brother. They gave away Zach for nothing. That's why other teams aren't going to give away anything for Vooch. No, they didn't give Zach away for nothing. That's just not accurate. They gave Zach away for cap flexibility, and it could potentially be 3 lottery picks. It's basically what it amounted to because they didn't have control over their own destiny. So I think that's having control over your own destiny, it helps go into the direction easier. Is it a great haul that they got back for Zach? Hell no. Was it a bad trade? Hell yes. But you can't say they didn't get nothing back. We got to see what they're going to do with what they got back, though. So where did you hear IOs for the long-term plans from the Bulls? From KC Johnson, I read the tweet. Literally read the tweet during the live stream. On the real, from a Warriors standpoint, I feel like Vucevic would have been perfect for a Butler, Draymond, for a combo. Completely agree with you, Vaughn. Completely 100% agree with you. So I'm surprised with that just as long as you are, brother. But all right, y'all, I'm going to get ready to wrap up the stream, man. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following us at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number 1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end everything on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.